Brought to you by the Dark Lord himself, Queasy Ali. Capitalism promised freedom, but in practice it delivered chains. What began as a system built on opportunity has mutated into a machine that rewards greed, exploits the weak, and consumes the planet in the name of endless profit. Money, once a simple tool of exchange, has become the fuel that drives corruption, inequality, and moral decay. Money has indeed become one of the most pervasive sources of harm in society. Its influence often brings out the worst in human behavior. The pursuit of wealth drives people to sacrifice morality, relationships, and even human lives. History is overflowing with examples of this cost. Colonial empires ravaged entire continents under the banner of commerce, stealing land, enslaving millions, and reducing human lives to line items on a balance sheet. The transatlantic slave trade was not born of hatred alone, it was a business venture. The cold efficiency of profit stripped people of humanity and turned suffering into currency. Centuries later, that same logic persists. Corporations like ExxonMobil knowingly fueled the climate crisis for decades, prioritizing shareholder profits over the survival of future generations. Deforestation in the Amazon continues, destroying one of Earth's most vital ecosystems so global markets can have more cheap beef and soy. Even essential services have been commodified. In the United States, healthcare is treated not as a right, but a privilege. The price of insulin, discovered over a century ago, has soared so high that people have died rationing their doses while pharmaceutical executives collect record bonuses. Capitalism, by its very nature, creates winners and losers. For every billionaire yacht floating across the ocean, there are thousands of families who can't afford clean water or shelter. More than 700 million people live in extreme poverty while over 2,600 billionaires hoard a grotesque share of global wealth. The system cannot make everyone rich because the wealth of one so often depends on the suffering of another. Take Jeff Bezos, worth more than $150 billion, yet his workers report grueling hours, poverty wages, and relentless surveillance. Their labor fuels his empire, but their humanity is treated as expendable. This inequality is not a flaw in capitalism, it is the design. Low-wage labor is its lifeblood. Sweatshops in Bangladesh produce cheap clothing for Western markets. Workers earn in a day what some executives spend on lunch. This isn't progress, it's the modern face of servitude. The psychological toll of this system runs deep. In cultures obsessed with money and success, people work themselves to death, literally. In Japan, they even have a word for it, karashi, death by overwork. Cities fracture as inequality grows. In San Francisco, luxury apartments tower over sprawling tent cities, the rich and the homeless divided by a single street, a monument to everything we've lost in the pursuit of wealth. Capitalism has placed profit above humanity. It rewards those who exploit others the most. CEOs like Martin Shkreli, who raised the price of a life-saving drug by 5,000%, are not anomalies, they are symptoms of a system that celebrates greed and punishes compassion. Education, housing, and healthcare, the pillars of human dignity, are treated as commodities instead of rights. The housing crisis in cities like New York and London is not a mystery. Landlords deliberately keep properties empty to inflate rents while thousands sleep on the streets below. Meanwhile, countries like Finland have nearly eliminated homelessness by treating housing as a basic human right. The ethical question is impossible to ignore. How can a system that necessitates suffering, inequality, and exploitation be justified? If the measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable members, then capitalism fails spectacularly. Defenders of the system say that capitalism drives innovation. But at what cost? The iPhone may symbolize progress, but it's built on cobalt mined by child laborers in the Congo. The shiny promise of advancement hides the suffering that makes it possible. Money itself is not evil, but in this system, it amplifies the worst in us. Billionaires coexist with starving children. Yachts float above drowning cities. Life-saving drugs sit on shelves while the poor die waiting. Capitalism has become a destructive force that undermines fairness, community, and the very idea of humanity. But it doesn't have to be this way. Several nations have proven that prosperity and compassion can coexist. Finland, for example, guarantees housing as a human right, a policy that has nearly eradicated homelessness. France enforces universal healthcare funded through national insurance. Canada recognizes both healthcare and housing as fundamental rights. Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and the Netherlands all maintain powerful economies while providing universal healthcare and robust welfare programs. Germany, New Zealand, and Japan ensure food security through subsidies, free school meals, and sustainable farming. These countries demonstrate that capitalism can be tempered by conscience, that free markets can thrive alongside fairness. Their economies remain strong because their people are healthy, educated, and secure. By reducing inequality, they achieve stability. By ensuring basic needs, they create productivity. Their success is proof that when governments regulate markets and invest in humanity, the system works for everyone, not just the elite. They show us that wealth doesn't have to mean cruelty, and growth doesn't have to mean destruction. Capitalism with compassion is possible. But only if we stop worshipping money and start valuing people again. The question remains, how long can we sustain a system that thrives on suffering? How long before the weight of inequality collapses the very foundations of the world we've built? Prosperity should never come at the expense of humanity. Kwesi Ali, the man, the myth, the legend. The icon aka the Dark Lord. Hashtag Revolution 2025 Hashtag Chaos Rising 2025 Hashtag Southpaw Rebellion 2025 Hashtag Griefs Humanity Hashtag Economic Justice Hashtag Human Over Money